Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Firefighters electrocuted while responding to fire in Greenwich town, St. Andrew. Another fire in Montego Bay, 14 persons now homeless. And later in sports, Jamaica Scorpions captain to miss final round of regional 4-day competition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. 6 firefighters were electrocuted while responding to a fire in the Greenwich town community in St. Andrew this morning. 3 of them are severely injured and have been hospitalized. It's understood that the men were part of a team putting out the blaze sometime after 2 o'clock. According to head of the fire brigade, Commissioner Stuart Beckford, while on the location, 3 firefighters came into contact with electrical wires. Those wires, he says, appeared to be illegal connections. 3 other members of the team tried to assist. However, that was futile.
3 of them are serious enough to be admitted to the hospital. They are currently at Kingston Public Hospital. I'm making my way there to check on their conditions, and I'm hoping that the doctor will be able to give me, some update as to the seriousness of their injury. The other 3 have sought medical attention at another private facility.
There was little change in the consumer and business confidence indices for the first quarter of this year. According to head of market research Don Anderson, both indices saw less than a percentage point movement for the quarter in review. This, he says, is in comparison to the fourth quarter of 2023. But what was the drivers behind these meager growths?
When we look at the fourth quarter in 2023, 18.5% of the consumers thought that current business conditions were good, but that fell substantially in the first quarter of 2024 to 10.3 percentage points. Now, where does that take us in terms of the comparison year to year? When we look at the first quarter in 2023, 20.4% of the consumers felt that current business conditions were good. And that now has fallen to 10.3 percentage points in the first quarter of 2024. So that's a dramatic fall off in terms of how consumers view current business conditions.
It was also similar for business confidence.
There's been a less than a 1 percentage point positive movement, and this is really nothing much to speak of. And we therefore need to note again very much that in the first quarter of the year, this year, the confidence level for both business and consumer has really just been stable compared to the previous quarter, 2023, fourth quarter. So where are we now? We're pretty much at the same position as we were. We started the year in the same position as we ended 2023. So there's really absolutely no change in business confidence.
The Clarendon police are seeking the public's assistance in locating 2 persons who are of interest to them following the murder of 2 men in the parish last month. In spite of those killings, the police say there has been a reduction in the number of serious crimes, including murder. Shamala Pullen reports.
Since the start of the year, Clarendon has recorded some 20 murders. This is 12 less than the same period last year.
We would have seen some marginal increase in some of our crimes, such as shootings, robberies, and break-ins. Just marginal increase. However, for rape, we are seeing significant decrease, as also murders, which is the big one. We continue to target our violence producers and wanted persons.
On March 28th of this year, the bodies of 28-year-old Tivin Ofield and 24-year-old Brandon Thompson were found in bushes in the Common Top area of Banks in the parish. Ganja weighing about 2 pounds were found in 2 knapsacks at the scene. Head of the Clarendon Police, Superintendent Carlos Russell, has listed 2 persons of interest in that murder case.
So we are looking for one. Hamilton. He's called Chopper 8. He's the main suspect. The main suspect in that murder. And we're also looking for one Marco Van O.C. Kaka for a murder in the Lionel Town space. These men are wanted, and we're asking anyone who know of their whereabouts to contact the police as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, Superintendent Russell says some areas like banks continue to be troubled spots for the police.
The flow of cocaine trade, and we have seen several incidents last year where persons have lost their lives because of this activity. We have had several meetings in that area trying to discourage some of these young men from this practice, but it still continues. I still don't understand some of these persons who are tricked to go in these areas to buy cocaine.
He says the police will continue to monitor and patrol these areas as they try to keep crime under control. Shabella Pullen, TVJ News.
Over in St. Anne, the police has revealed that about 60% of the murders committed are as a result of domestic-related violence. Jamila Maitland has the details.
A couple looks on in content from the benches of a park in Ocheria, St. Anne on the weekend. With a thumbs up, the man signaled to the police his approval for their message. They want citizens to find non-violent ways to resolve their conflict.
Domestic murders contributing to over 60% of the murders. So folks, it is not the guns.
The St. Anne police says it recorded 21 murders since the start of the year, up from 19 for the similar period in 2023. Head of the division, Senior Superintendent Dwight Powell, says the majority of them are domestic related.
If we can cut down on domestic related incidents, it means that the parish will have 60% less of the murders that we are experiencing. All right, so we're not saying that we don't have any other situation like gang violence and mob killing.
It's why the police say it's reviewing how domestic calls and reports are treated.
Whenever you hear somebody come to you and tell us that John Brown and Tom Strokes are a husband and a wife not living well, are them having problems. Every day you have the husband beating up the wife and the brother fighting. Call the police, no? You can call 119, you know, and tell them that there's a problem over that house, you know. The police will go over there, you might be saving a life.
But even passerby O'Neill Williams knows the police alone cannot solve the issue.
The youth want to respect your family, respect your wife just as your wife will respect you. A little argument in the house, you can walk out the yard and go to the road and feel better. You come back in the house. It doesn't make sense that they are cuss and tell you to kill one another.
Of equal importance is the bystander effect. They are concerned about those who record emergencies on their phones rather than trying to find ways to safely intervene to de-escalate conflicts.
So we have somebody videoing and we have two stabbing at each other, quarreling. Who is going to be the peacemaker? Who is going to put down that cell phone and not continue videoing and say, hey, let me step in between you and pull you apart, rather than stepping in between to see how much I can zoom up for TikTok.
Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
3 fires in Montego Bay, St. James within 24 hours. The latest has left at least 14 persons, including 4 children, homeless as the blaze destroyed their home on Barnett Lane last night. The details in this report from Karen Simpson.
This 2-story building stands as a reminder for the families that once lived there that life will never be the same. It's understood that 14 persons were home when fire was seen coming from the building sometime after 8 p.m.
Bed, TV, dresser, clothes, everything. Passport, papers, everything loose. Every single thing. Every single thing gone out.
How you manage to come out with the smoke inside?
I told him to wrap around my face and grab everybody and move, push them off like place.
Oh, everybody alone living here part?
No, me alone in my part, but everybody else in the other part, they have to pull them out.
They run out because me was full of smoke. Oh. So me have to run out because me have a slight of the asthma, me don't want to affect.
Lorraine Lawrence operates a business at a section of the building, but says she will now have to start over.
This morning about after 4, I get a call from my business place on fire. When I come, everything burn right to the ground. Everything fridge, everything chair. All of my ear things and everything burn. Everything.
It's not clear how the fire started, but 2 units from the St. James Fire Department responded and extinguished the blaze. This is the 3rd fire in the parish in the last 24 hours. On Sunday, fire gutted a shop at Old Shoe Market, and Monday morning, a warehouse and a cash pot outlet were destroyed by fire. In the meantime, the mayor of Montego Bay, Richard Vernon, says he will be getting help for the children who were displaced by the fire.
I'm collecting information to see how best I can seek some assistance for the children in particular, and later on I'll look at how we can assist the persons who have been displaced.
Carrie Simpson, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. And this just into TVJ News. The Integrity Commission has today submitted to Parliament 5 reports of investigation together with associated indicative rulings from the Commission's Director of Corruption Prosecution. The documents were formally received and signed for the Parliament at 11:22 this morning. The indicative rulings were also similarly addressed and submitted in separate envelopes. The Integrity Commission anticipates that its investigation reports, which were submitted pursuant to and in conformance with Section 54 of the Integrity Commission Act, together with the associated indicative rulings, will be tabled in both Houses of Parliament as soon as possible. And it's now time for the Business Minute. The level of remittances to the country has hit a plateau. That's according to pollster Don Anderson. He was making his presentation at the release of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce's first quarter business and consumer confidence indices report. Mr. Anderson noted that for the quarter in review, remittance inflows to the country was at 27%. This, he says, is due to what is happening in more developed countries, such as the United States, which is one of the country's major remittance earners.
We're not anywhere near the peak of 2016 at 38%. And what this does is impact significantly the ability of persons, particularly so in the lower, middle, and low incomes, to meet their daily household expenses. Because when we ask the question, which we normally do, well, how do you spend, how do you deal with remittances? Very little of this goes towards anything except meeting daily household expenses.
Further afield, China's economy made a stronger than expected start to the year, even as a crisis in its property sector deepened. According to official data, gross domestic product GDP expanded by 5.3% in the first 3 months of 2024 compared to a year earlier. That beat expectations. The world's second largest economy could see growth slow to 4.6% in the first quarter. And that's it for the Business Minute. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Antigua and Barbuda government is to purchase a replacement landing gear and engine as test flights for LEA 2020 continue throughout this week. The Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority had expressed concerns last week when the first test flights did not go as planned due to issues relating to the landing gear and engine. Prime Minister Gaston Brown says the government has begun the process to replace the faulty equipment, as success of the training flights were critical to receipt of the air operator certificate. On the international scene, Israel is calling for sanctions to be imposed on Iran's missile project after it launched an unprecedented attack on its territory. A wave of missiles and drones were fired from Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen on Saturday, with most being downed by Israel and its allies. Israel's war cabinet has met but hasn't said what it plans to do. The military chief of staff says the attack will not go unanswered. And a fire ripped through Copenhagen's Old Stock Exchange building, one of the Danish capital's best-known buildings, on Tuesday, engulfing its spire, which collapsed in a scene reminiscent of the 2019 blaze of Paris's Notre Dame. Emergency services, employees from the Danish Chamber of Commerce, including its CEO Brian Mikkelsen, and even passers-by were seen carrying large paintings away from the building in a race to save historic artifacts from the flames. The Copenhagen Fire Department says efforts were made to save everything possible. Denmark's National Museum sent 25 employees to the scene to help evacuate cultural artifacts and paintings, it said on X. The historic building, with a spire shaped as the tails of 4 dragons intertwined, had been under renovation and clad in scaffolding when the fire broke out. Parts of the roof had collapsed and the fire spread to several floors on the building. And those are the top regional and international stories. I'm Carrie Simpson.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Jermaine Brown will have your midday sports report.